Welcome to our C# tutorial series. In this video, we're diving into the basics of classes and exception handling. We'll break down what classes are and how they help you organize and manage your code. Plus, we'll cover exception handling to show you how to deal with errors gracefully. Whether you're new to C# or just brushing up, we'll keep things simple and clear. Let's get started.
Hello guys, I'm Deepa and today we are going to see classes in C#. What is class? A class is a user-defined blueprint or a prototype from which objects are created. You can also think it like a recipe for making a cake, where recipe defines the ingredient and steps to be needed for making a cake. Here the recipe is class and ingredient and steps are the properties and action to be taken for making the cake. Cake is nothing but our object. How to declare a class? The classes are declared by using class keyword followed by a unique identifier. As you can see in this picture, public class customer with open and close curly braces. Public is the access specifier and class is the keyword followed by customer. Customer is a unique identifier. In a program, you can have only one class name. You cannot repeat the class name. Like, you cannot have one more class named as customer. Now we will see members of the class. The members of the class are fields. Fields are the variable that belongs to class. Next is property. Property is the getter and setter for the field. Then comes method. Methods are the action that can be performed on the object. Then we have constructors. Constructors are the special method that initialize object when they are created. You can see it in this picture as an example. Here class is declared public class user. Our class name is user. Public int id. Here the id is the field. Also you can see the name, public string name. The name is also the field. Below it you can see public user. User is the constructor, public user. Constructor have same name as the class name. Then we can see public void get user details. This get user detail is the method for the object. Public int designation and public string location. These are the properties as it have get and set. Thank you. So now the next person, who is Anurag, will continue.
Hello, myself Anurag Dwivedi, and now we are going to see what is method in C#. A method is a small reusable piece of code that does a specific job, also known as fundamental building block of a program. It is a set of instructions that tells the computer exactly what to do. And the part of methods are seen here, which is name, return type, parameters and body. In this, the name is in which a method has a name that describes what it does. Return type tells us what kind of answer the method will give us, example a word, a number, etc. And here parameters are input that the method needs to do its job. Body is the code inside the method that gets executed when we call it. So now we see why we use methods and what are the advantages. First one is reuse of code. In this we don't need to write same code again and again. We will put that in a method and use it again and again. Second is readability. In this, the codes are break up into the smaller so we can read it easily. Third one is efficiency. Methods make the code run faster by avoiding the data duplication. So it gives efficiency to the program. And then it is a very basic methods used to keep the codes organized. So let us see the examples of methods so we can understand it easily. First one is how we call the method. And here is namespace my code. This is like a container that holds our code. In this we have defining a new class name as program, and in the class program we defining a new method called my method. This method will help us to print the following statement which we written inside it. And then the static void main part. This is the main entry point of our program where execution will start. And here we calling the same method which we defined earlier, which prints hello C sharp. So here you can see the output. And we can also call same method multiple times. Here we calling the same method 3 times, which will result us to print the hello C sharp statement 3 times. And here is the output. And now we see the third example where we adding 2 integers by calling the method. This code adds 2 integers together and prints the result. Here how it works, we see this step by step. In this, it defined two numbers 5 and 10 in variable integer num1 and integer num2. It calling a method called add numbers with these two numbers. The add numbers method adds the two numbers together and prints the result to the console. So now we see the output. And the result of this code is that it prints 15 to the console, which is the sum of 5 and 10. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Krishna. Today we are going to learn about constructors in C#. Constructor is a special type of method that has same name as class name and is used to initialize object and is automatically called when an object is created. Constructor never have a return type, not even void. There are two types of constructor, default constructor and parameter constructor. Let's take example to understand this concept. Imagine you went to a toy shop to buy a car. You have two options, either buy the existing car in the shop or get your car customized by different wheels, different motor, different cover, etc. Let's understand default constructor. A constructor that takes no parameters, and if you do not define constructor, C# compiler will automatically provide default constructor. This is like basically you went to toy shop and just bought the car displayed there. Here is the example. See, the class toy car is made and constructor is created called public toy car, and the print statement is passed, a new toy car is made. And when you call the object of the class and when the code is executed, a new toy car is made has been printed. Now let's understand parameterized constructor. Parameterized constructor is a constructor that has one or more parameters passed. It is used to initialize the values to the members. This is like you went to toy shop and bought the car, but you customize it, different skin color, different types of wheels, or the color, etc. Here is the example of it's same. You made the class called toy car and given the variables string color and created a constructor called public toy car, and here you pass the parameter called string color, and you gave the code, you gave variable color and value and gave the print state. And when you create the object class of this class, and when you give the parameters their value, that is red and blue, and when you execute the code, here you get the output of a new red toy car is made, a new blue toy car is made. Thank you.
Now, let's start by understanding what an object is. Simply put, an object is an instance of a class. Think of a class as a blueprint and the object as the actual thing created from that blueprint. For example, if we have a class called car, an object could be a specific car, like a red Toyota. Objects in C# are used to represent real-world entities in your code. They have properties which describe their attributes, such as color and model. and methods which define their behavior like driving or stopping. Now, why do we use objects? Objects are incredibly useful because they help us organize our code more effectively. They allow us to group related data and actions together, making our programs easier to manage. For example, instead of keeping track of a car's color, model, and driving behavior separately, we can bundle them all into a car object. This not only make our code more organized, but also help us model real-world scenarios more accurately. Now, let's look at a practical example of how objects work in C#. First, we define a class called car. This class contains 4 properties that describe a car, namely brand, model, year, and color. Next, we have a display method to print the detail of the car. Now, let's look at the main method, which is where everything comes together. Here, we are creating an object as car1. The syntax for creating an object is first class name followed by object name equals to new class name with open and close bracket. To access the member of a class, we use object and dot operator followed by the name of the member. Here, we are assigning the details of car1 and then printing it. Same is done for car2 object. We created the car2 object like previously and assigning the details of car2 and printing the same. Now let's run the code and see the output. As you can see, we have got the details of 2 cars displayed. Now that we have thoroughly explored how object works in C#, let's move on to our next topic.
Hi everyone, I am Resina Fernandez and welcome to the C# series. In this video, we are diving into properties of class in C#. And today I will be covering some key concepts like properties and polymorphism. Properties of a class are the most important concept to make your code easier to manage. Let's start with the first, that is properties. Properties in C# encapsulate a private field and provide controlled access to get and set accessors. The get accessor returns the value of the field, while the set accessor allows you to assign a value to it. This helps to protect the data and ensures it's modified in a controlled way. Let's understand this by example. In this code, we have a bank account name class with a private field as balance. The balance property allows us to access and modify the balance securely using the get and set methods. You can think of this like a bank where the balance is private and only certain people have access to update or view it. Other example, imagine the balance property like a remote control of your TV. You don't directly interact with the internal circuits of the TV. Instead, you use the remote to change the channel or volumes. Similarly, properties in C# control how we access or modify the private data of a class. Moving on to polymorphism. Polymorphism allows methods in derived classes to provide specific implementation of methods defined in a base class. It's achieved using the virtual keyword in the base class and the override keyword in the derived class. Let's see how it works by the code. In this example, dog overrides the speak method from the animal class, and same as like cat class. Even though both animal and dog have a speak method, the output changes depending on the object type. Let's take a real life scenario, thinking of polymorphism like different people saying hello depending on the language they speak. Hello could be hola, bonjour or ni hao. The word changes based on who is speaking, just like how a method behaves differently based on the object that calls it. This wraps our discussion on properties of C#. These concepts are essential for understanding how classes work and interact with each other in object-oriented programming that is called as OOPs. Next up, my group members will take you through exception handling. which is another crucial topic. So stay tuned and keep learning. Thanks for watching.
Hello, my name is Meet Gangwal. Today we will learn about exception in C#. When you run a program and an unexpected error happens, it is called an exception. In simple words, if there is an error, it is called as exception. Mainly, there are two types of errors. First, compile time error. Second, runtime error. Compile time error happens when you write the code incorrectly. For an example, if you miss a semicolon at the end of a line, it will give you an error. Second, runtime error. This error happens when your program is run correctly but doesn't give you an accurate output. For an example, trying to accessing the first element of an empty list, it will give you an error. There are two types of major runtime error. First, division by zero error. Second, index out of range. First, division by zero error. This error happens when you try to divide anything by zero. Index out of range error. This error occurs when you try to access an element out of an array that doesn't exist. In the first example, we can see the value of A as 10 and the value of B as 0. In the next step, we will perform A divided by B, which is 10 divided by 0. As we all know, anything divided by 0 is undefined. So this program will give you an error called as division by 0 exception. In second example, we can see we have created an array called as AR containing a value of 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. And then the next we have created an array called as num containing a data as 5, 10, 15, 25, 30. Now we are doing a for loop with the length of num which is 6. Next we are trying to print the first element of AR divided by the first element of num, which is 5 divided by 5, which is 1. Now as the loop proceeds, the value of I will be increased and we will divide the second element of AR divided by the second element of num, which is 10 divided by 10. The value will be same as 1. As the loop proceeds, we will reach to the fifth element of AR divided by the fifth element of num, which is 25 divided by 25. But as the loop increases and the I value goes to 6, there is no extra element and there is no sixth element in AR. So this will give you an error called as index out of range exception. This was the whole exception part. Next we will see what is exception handling. Thank you.
Hello, myself Shital Gupta. So we are going to see what is exception handling. Exception handling is a process which handles exceptions and errors which can occur during the execution of a program and interrupt the flow of a program. Because of exception handling, we can deal with the error or unexpected events and maintain the flow of a program. So next we'll see why exception handling is important. Prevent program crashes. So when the unexpected error occurs in a program, there is a chance that the program stops terminating and a crash happens, which exception handling can avoid by handling such errors and exceptions. Improve user experience. So when such error occurs, the user gets a message of what type of exception is occurred, so the user can handle it accordingly. There are some error messages like zero division error. This occurs when a user tries to divide any number by 0. And file not found error. This occurs when a user tries to read a file that does not exist. Debugging aid. It helps developers identify and correct issues in the code. Some basic concept of exception handling. Exceptions. Exception is an unexpected event or error that disturbs the flow of a program. There are some exception handling keywords such as try, catch, finally, which we use to write the exception handling program. This we will learn in detail in further part of a video. Types of exceptions. Checked exception. So this is a compile time exception. A compile time exception is an error that occurs during the compilation process of a program before it is run. If they are not handled, the program will not compile. Unchecked exception. This is a runtime exception. Runtime exceptions are not checked at compile time. Often runtime exceptions indicate flaws in the program logic such as accessing an array with an invalid index or performing an illegal operation. Errors. Errors generally represent situations from which the program cannot recover, such as system resource depletion. How exception handling works. Try block contains code that may throw an exception. Catch block handles the exception if it occurs. Finally block executes code regardless of whether an exception occurred or not. Throw statement used to explicitly throw an exception. So we'll see an simple example of exception handling. Try. Try block, the code in the try block attempts to open and read a file. If the file does not exist, the exception will be raised. The except block catches file not found error, which occurs if the specified file doesn't exist. This prevents the program from crashing and provides a clear error message. Finally block. Finally block runs after the try and except block, regardless of whether an exception occurred. It's useful for cleanup or final task. So next we will see all the block in details. Thank you.
I am Shabaz. Today we will discuss how to handle the error in C# using try-catch block. So basically, when we try to execute the piece of code that might cause an error, we use try block to attempt the task. And if error occurs, we use catch block to handle it. The syntax of try-catch block is the code that might cause an error will be returned under try block, and the code to handle the error must be written inside catch block. Let's understand why try-catch block is important. First, it protects the program from unexpectedly crashing. Second, it's allowed to show the meaningful message and handle the error smoothly. Third, it also helps in finding and fixing the error and understanding what went wrong. Multiple try-catch block. In C#, we use only one try block per structure. However, we can pair the single try block with multiple catch block to handle the different types of exception individually, and at the end one finally block, which is optional. So basically the format of multiple try catch block is one try block, multiple catch block, and one finally block. Let's take an example to understand the concept in better way. So we are taking two variables of integer data type n1 and n2 and trying to divide the number 1 by number 2. Since the number 2 is 0 and we cannot divide any number by 0, so this will throw an exception. So this code must be written inside try block, and if error occurs, we want to display a message you can't divide a number by 0. So the message must be written inside catch block. So when we try to execute this piece of code, instead of crashing unexpectedly, it will show an user-friendly message you can't divide a number by 0. Hope you understand the concept. Thank you.
Hello, myself Vaishnavi. After try and catch, we are moving forward to throw keyword in C# and how to raise an exception by throw keyword. Throw keyword allows you to manually raise an exception during an execution. Let's understand this by a simple example. We started by defining a program class. We set an initial age as 15. We can change it later. Then we are calling validate voting age method. In this method, we are receiving age parameter. We check if the age is less than 18 or not. If the age is less than 18, then it will throw an exception, not eligible for voting, minimum age required is 18. And if we pass age as 19, then the output will be eligible for voting. Using throw exception allows us to handle exceptional cases explicitly. When an exception is thrown, the program execution stops. Remember to choose the right exception type and provide meaningful error messages. Now the next person, Palak, will continue.
My name is Palak Jain and today I am going to talk about the finally block. So in programming, the finally block is like cleanup setup. It is used to make sure that some important code always run whether or not an error occurred during exception. Finally block, no matter what happened in the try or catch block, the code inside the final block will always run. This is where you put the code that needs to be run no matter what, such as closing files or releasing resources. For example, file handling and the database connection. So in file handling, the file stream is null. So in try block, the file stream example text is that it will open the file and read the file. But in the try block, it will capture the exception. And the catch block will try to solve the exception. If it doesn't solve, it will show the file error accessing file. So the final block will come in the inside and the file will closed and it will show file is closed. So next, the database connection. SQL connection is shown, the new connection is made. So in the try block, it is shown that the exception is opened. In the catch block, it will show the error is happening in database, and in the final block, it will close the connection, so it will be run successfully afterwards. So now we will look into the guaranteed execution purpose and no exception handling. So guaranteed execution ideal for critical operations where cleanup is mandatory regardless exception. Purpose is that the final block is used for guaranteed execution or cleanup of resource releasing coding. Final block always executes allowing prediction program flow. Ensure finally block doesn't throw the exceptions that could make original issues. No exception handling will show you that it can be used without a catch block if you only need to ensure the cleanup operations are performed without needing to handle the specific exception errors. The simplifying code of structure when error handling isn't primary concern. So in short, finally block is that for cleanup the finalizing tasks that are attempting an operation, ensure the program is stable and resource friendly. Thank you.
Hello, myself Ruchita from TYBSC-IT. I have analyzed the video. At the beginning, I thought it will be difficult for me to understand the concept, but as I gone through it, it was easy and yet precisely described. As per the video, I have acquired knowledge about the concepts in C#, like classes, objects, methods, how to add two numbers. They have explained about the constructors, why it is useful for us, and more about the types of constructors. It's not ended here. They have explained more about the properties and exceptions, and last but not the least, they have explained more about the blocks, that is file handling and data connections. They have explained all such things very conveniently and it was easy. Thank you.
In this video, we understood the concept of classes and how classes is important in the object-oriented programming system, and how we can make the code more reusable, manageable and easier. We also understood the concept of exception handling. Exception handling has two types, runtime and compile. Runtime means it is a type of error that it does not gives a perfect output. For example, when we divide 5 by 0, it is undefinable. And compile means when we don't write the code according to the format. For example, when we don't put any semicolons or curly brackets in the program. Thank you.
This video helped me to understand the importance of the classes in object-oriented programming. It highlights how the classes plays an important role in making the code organized. and how the classes simplifies the complex system and promotes the code efficiency. And when we talk about the exception, whenever there is an error, it is called an exception. So there are two types of exception. One is compile time exception and the second is runtime error. This exception code will run but not have the accurate output. Division by 0 is an runtime exception. To handle this runtime errors, exception handling is used. Thank you.